Welcome back. After the 9 o'clock news, Kinsey Schofield, all the way from the west coast of America, will be talking about the latest events on planet Meghan. Never a dull moment there, and what's going on with Harry, if anything at all. Probably nothing, you know. Doesn't do very much, does he? We'll talk about that after the 9 o'clock news. But first up, let's talk about a story that I find rather disturbing. It's another story I think that adds to this growing sense that this country just gets everything so badly wrong. Well, let's talk it through, shall we? A warm welcome to the show to the Reverend Bernard Randall. Hello, Bernard.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. Well, some time ago, for around about 2020, 6 years ago or so, you basically lost your job at the Trent College school in Derbyshire. And the reason you lost your job was because you had the temerity to stand up and preach a sermon to the pupils that they didn't have to accept LGBT ideology, the orthodoxy at which we, of course, are all now required to worship at the altar of. You reminded your pupils of C of E teachings on marriage, which, as I said in my intro, is traditionally a kind of heterosexual affair, and so on and so forth. But you have been demonised, and you remain a pariah. What is it now, 5 years later?
Over 5 years since I've been able to lead a service in a church. Yeah, absolutely, which is pretty difficult for when you're ordained.
And if you were to lead a service in a church, that could potentially be a criminal offence now.
Well, it'd be offence against church law, so it could see me face legal penalties, potentially up to being forbidden ever to work as a minister again under any circumstances, basically defrocked effectively.
And you told your pupils, how old are they, by the way, Bernard?
Well, it's secondary school, so they're ranging from sort of 11, 12 up to 18. And so well able, I would say, to think about these things for themselves. Given they have, relationships and sex education in school at that age, they should be able to think about a different point of view, the sort of Christian teaching on relationships and sex education.
Well, prior to your defenestration, as it were, you were not exactly thrilled by the presence at Trent College of, it's an independent school, by the way, of an organisation called Educate and Celebrate. It's now defunct, but it was invited into the school to teach staff to, and I quote, embed gender identity and sexual orientation into the fabric of what they do, of what teachers do. For questioning this dubious orthodoxy, you remain cancelled. And I believe that some of your pupils during this time when Educate and Celebrate were in the school, came up to you and said, do we have to sort of like obey all of this LGBT stuff? And that's why you thought, well, you'd give them a sermon to explain to them that they didn't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I set out a positive view of the Christian understanding, the Church of England's teaching on marriage. I said, you may believe that biological sex is real and can't be changed. You can look at gender identity language and think it doesn't quite make sense, that sort of thing. But most importantly, respect the people you disagree with. And if you hold the LGBT view, that's absolutely fine too. We shouldn't have personal abuse or attacks on any of their stuff, but you make up your own mind. You don't have to accept anything anybody tells you to believe, and I would include Christianity within that. And that allowing them to think for themselves on this, that was the thing that was too much.
Yeah, in your sermon you said you should no more be told to have to accept LGBT ideology than you should be told you must be in favour of Brexit or must be a Muslim. So pretty logical stuff, if you ask me. But this fell foul of your boss's rules and regulations. What did they tell you that you'd done so wrong?
Well, they main thing was that I had potentially upset people, though there was no evidence of anyone actually being particularly upset apart from one member of staff. And I would have thought the staff were grown up enough to deal with different ideas. but it was the potential to cause harm, unspecified, rather vague, and the fact that I hadn't followed advice of other staff. Those other staff were the people who were very pro-LGBT stuff and didn't want me speaking about the Christian view. Well, sorry, Christian minister, Christian chapel, Christian act of worship in a Christian school, I will talk about the Christian point of view, but leaving open that people can have different viewpoints, which is absolutely fine by me, but not fine by them.
Well, you're an Oxford graduate and a former Cambridge University Director of Theology. And of course, clearly you believe in what you might call the traditional tenets of the Christian faith. It seems to me that is your crime, that somehow or other to believe in those traditions is no longer not only fashionable, but actually acceptable.
And bizarrely, the people who have most accused me of a crime are the Church of England, because I was reported to safeguarding authorities for this terrible sermon, which people can read online themselves, christianconcern.com. They can click through and find it. The secular safeguarding authorities have all said, yeah, there's nothing to see here, there's no problem. The church's safeguarding authorities said, yes, this could be harmful. So people within the Church of England, not all of it, I hasten to say, but some people within the Church of England in positions of authority saying the church's own teaching is harmful, which I just find mind-blowing. And effectively what I'm being punished for is my beliefs, which are the beliefs of the Church of England, rather than anything I've done wrong or any harm I've actually caused. It's simply having the temerity to say, well, actually, Christian marriage is quite a good thing.
Yes, but because of your belief in traditional Christian marriage, you have been ruled by the Church of England a safeguarding risk, someone who might cause spiritual and emotional harm. This is the Church of England saying this. Well, you know what's bad news for you, Bernard? If Justin Welby wasn't the Archbishop of Canterbury when you got in trouble, you might have been all right. But this smacks of his idea of what the Church of England should be, some kind of woke organisation going along with all the fashionable orthodoxies of the time.
I think there's some truth in that. It's not just Justin Welby. I think there's a sense in which that the sort of woke has infected a large part of the sort of bureaucratic side of the church. I mean, if you go to many parish churches up and down the land, they're doing brilliant work, and they're talking about Jesus, and they're teaching the teachings of the church in very effective ways. But the bureaucrats sitting in the central offices seem to have lost touch with the meaning of being a Christian, as far as I can see.
I would agree, and you're still cancelled effectively all these years on. Now you're 52 and you've got a wife and a kid, a daughter. Times must have been tough.
Yeah, it's been very difficult. I mean, I've been supported by some great people. Christian Concern that I mentioned earlier have been brilliantly supportive, particularly in the sort of the legal goings on that there have been, trying to unravel everything that's happened, and private messages of support from other clergy. But yeah, it's been very difficult when you are persecuted by the world. As a Christian, you kind of expect a certain amount of that, and you're fortified against it. When you're persecuted by the church, which is the organisation that should be standing up for you and supporting you and lifting you up, when they oppress you, that can make it really, really difficult. So yeah, there have been some very dark times along the way in the last 6 years since that sermon. And
now that you're not allowed to pursue your important profession, of course, how have you managed to sort of get by?
Well, I've been working for a sort of adult education provider who have been very good to me, but it's part-time. It's a lower salary than I was on, so it pays the bills, but it's not brilliant. And most importantly, it's not what I feel called by God to be doing.
Do you? I've got to go in a second, Bernard. But do you still hope that the Church of England will see the error of their ways and welcome you back into the flock?
I have to trust at some point they will. I don't know what I'll do if they don't.
Well, Bernard, my sympathy to you. Thank you very much for talking to you, and we'll keep in touch. We really will. Thank you. That's the Reverend Bernard Randall, persecuted because he's a Christian and he's a member of the Church of England. He's a vicar for the Church of England. What is that all about? Again,